right? And that's the problem we have. Whilst it's fine to get this sort of protected cropping, I'll give you a look on the inside. It's very difficult sometimes to get the return, but I hear Greg's comment also. It's also difficult to tell the consumer they've got something different. That's typically how it looks inside, and I'll give you an example of a larger crop. So that's right at the end of the rows. Why do we do that? We do that because, you know, this is a little bit different than the next slide. It's not glass, it's plastic, yes. It's not as high tech as what you'll see in the next slide that we're doing in Tasmania, but it's a level of entry that gives farmers an opportunity to be able to supply a really good product consistently, but there is a lot more cost in covering your crops. This map here is 5 hectares of glass in Tasmania. This is high-tech stuff. So what you've got here is where we started, and this is typically how you start in farming. You've got to get a return on investment. There is about 2.5 hectares of poly, which is what you just saw on the South Australian farm. That is glass house, which you see out of Holland. Okay, that's about a $7.5 million investment just there. That's just for capsicums, and that's how it looks a little bit closer up. I put that on the ground in 2002, so we're the end of 2002, 2003. Fortunately for us, yesterday we bought another piece of land in Tasmania to put up another 12 hectares of glass for the coming couple of years. But again, there's real issues for farmers now with any customer identifying the difference between growing high-tech indoor and growing outdoor. And what I mean by that, I'll give you an example. To grow an outdoor capsicum crop, I can probably produce per kilo at about $1.30 or $1.20 probably. Indoor, under $3.50 is almost impossible. That's the difference. Of course, the sustainability about catching all of our water, it's completely organic farming effectively. We string up every single plant, as you can see there, right across the 7 hectares, and you can imagine we've only got a small operation. There's a lot of companies that are actually bigger than that. There's a typical market store. For those of you that haven't seen a market store before, that's not for our service of any of our corporate clients. What we like to do is protect our supply chain all the way across the country. This is typically for your normal, average, everyday fruit shop. Some of your Queen Vic markets, your fresh markets, etc., will come to this type of outlet to pick up their goods. However, it is the main pricing mechanism for the whole commodity across the country. So whatever is sold at any market store in the nation is what the benchmark price is on the day for anybody purchasing fruit and vegetables usually. That's a classic case of one of our distribution centres. This one's in Melbourne. It will store anything upwards of about 180,000 boxes of tomatoes at any one point. It's only a tomato facility. I didn't take any photos of our capsicum facility. We're also in retail, so we talk about horizontal and vertical integration. I guess it's a legacy of the business over many, many years, but we're in competitive to your East Oakley store, but nevertheless, there's a small example of that. We've had it for 42 years too, by the way. There's an example of value adding that I spoke about before, and these are the other little things that go into the business that you've got to manage. Coles do a very, very good job of managing these type of high, upmarket lines. Here's an example of a Woolworths pre-pack. Example of Aldi. And then there's a home brand, one of our home brands, and that's our Glasshouse Capsicum program, which we market in traffic lights. We supply them into Canberra. In fact, we supply them right up the East Coast. So who drives demand for us, right? Well, the shelf space drives demand, right? Effectively, if we're talking anybody, but in particular, a lot of our multinationals, how big they open the shelf is how big they order, right? And that goes the same for the everyday fruiterer, our farmers markets, or our fresh markets. So shelf space is a really important one to who drives demand. Weather drives demand. If we get a really hot day, all of a sudden we get a huge demand on tomatoes. If we get a really cold day or a cold spell, we don't sell them. It's an incredible, incredible thing. Similar products drive demand. So in other words, in our case, If somebody goes on special and a really cheap special with a truss tomato, up against what we have is field grown or loose grown gourmet tomatoes, that can typically stop orders and increase the truss. So we're balancing that every single day of the week. What drives demand? Well, weather again drives demand, but I gave an example there of gas and electricity shortages. Whenever we get a gas and electricity shortage, sales go through the roof on our products because people can't cook. So they want to go out and they want to get a salad, and sales just go nuts. So we want to go out and bomb all of the gas stations. And, of course, specials drive demand, right? Anyone that goes on special and offers better value always drives demand. Match competition. What I mean by that, it's one supermarket is on special and another one walks in and says, I want the same price. Believe me, it happens. So when it does, that drives demand. Product shortages create internal demand, and this is typical. It happens all the time, especially as we speak. When products are really short, like they are now, and what happens is that we'll use a supermarket example. The little guys running the fruit and veg sections, they order 100 to get 50 because they're getting cut back by their category managers, right? So what happens is that they continue to do so until we meet that. When we meet that, then we don't get an order for 4 days because they didn't actually need it, right? And that's what happens. So the shortages get shorter. The minute you can supply them, the pyramid drops. Competitive tension, customer versus customer, which is what I spoke to you about before. If someone goes on special, somebody else will want it. If it's a new product, somebody else will want it. There's a whole lot of competitive tension that we deal with all the time. My morning routine is that I wake up, I open my laptop, I have a look at what we've loaded from all of our farms. I bench those numbers versus the same time last week, the same time last month, same time last year, have a look at the weather, then I go out and check the weather's actually right. Then what I do is I actually send all my goods to my distribution centres while I've got the opportunity to tell them where to go, because we're managing return on investment, and every state is a different price. A lot of people actually don't like that, but it happens that way because it's supply and demand. So that's the way we go about our wholesale pricing, and people will ring us and negotiate every single moment of the day. So when we go on holidays, we don't want to go to Bali, right? Because we just want to go and buy something, we don't want to negotiate. With all that, we also manage our retail outlets. We've got two, as I say, they're a legacy of ours, and we've had them for a long, long time. So we understand some of the retail frustrations with that. We also do import and export. So we're exporting off the farm, we're also importing other products. So we import from New Zealand, we don't import from anywhere else in the world. We do from Holland, but it's not much. And we do a lot of export, but we mainly export to Holland and Southeast Asia. But the interesting part about managing an interface and managing import and export is that we can actually improve our price by exporting, and we can decrease our price by importing. So you've got to be really careful here to manage that balance. New Zealand's always producing tomatoes at the same time that we are, and we're producing tomatoes at the same time that they are. So again, it's a commodity that needs to be balanced all the time. Last thing we do obviously is manage risk, and everyone manages risk, but we've got to manage our undercover versus outside risk. That's why we go undercover. We're going undercover because we're attempting to manage our risk. Yes, it costs us a lot of money, but it gives a far better product more consistently. We can still be very damaging undercover, in fact more so, because if we get a disease undercover, it wipes out our total crop. If you get a disease outside, you can usually get it before it wipes out your crop. We talk about value recovery, so it's about what we're going to get for our product across the season. It's about the end result. I'll give you a classic example of that. We were thumping along beautifully last year in North Queensland. We've done our numbers on 900,000 boxes, and then in November a lot of rain hit North Queensland. In fact, we caught 22 inches in one night, and it totaled the rest of the crop. So we lost 190,000 boxes. So when you do that, all of a sudden then you've got to go back into your cycle about damage control, manage your risk a little bit about value recovery, and see how we're going. We might have to, and that's why KB's run a cycle of production so that we can go on, not take on debt to another production area, but certainly try and offset it. Again, we have risks around import and export. There's no doubt, I think they're obvious what those risks are, but export's a classic. If you're not on it all the time, when it gets there, it's no good, especially if you're dealing with the Asian type countries. And the last but not least, on-time payments. On-time payments is probably the biggest problem we have. So yeah, there's a lot of cost about meeting all these demands, and all the assurance systems, freight, packaging, equipment, machines, lots of packing machines, labelling requirements. IT is huge in our business now. Not only on our farms, all of our farms are GPS, all of our roads are GPS, but so is everything else that we have. Our trucks are GPS. We need to know where they are all the time. So there's lots of that stuff, and we're changing that to handhelds as well. So we're in touch with the business all the time. Warehousing systems is really important. We deal with 7 or 8 colours of tomatoes every single day of the week. So we need to know what colours they are. It's not a product that has a shelf life, it's a product that has a maturity life. I spoke about GPS, and of course people. People is really difficult for us to continue to deal with. So we're managing the highs and lows. Business develops an interesting one with new varieties and time lag. There's somewhere between a 3 to 5 year time lag on going overseas. I've spent a lot of time overseas trying to find varieties that we want to deal with. Typically we like to grow something different. I don't know why we do this, but we like to do something different than somebody else. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time it doesn't. But the time lag is 3 to 5 years for us to do that, and then be able to implement it into a retail store. Usually at quite a substantial cost by that time. Yeah, we're one category I've got 2 categories, tomatoes and capsicums, of a much broader fresh produce industry. But it's an example of what all of those categories do every single day of the week. And again, we're only one segment of the fresh food industry. So I'll leave you with, if you want to be a successful fruit and vegetable producer and supply chain provider, you need to be able to do this.